Flame on! How's everybody doing tonight? And I'm here with my special guest, Teladiaplays. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, everyone, and welcome to this exciting review of Batman Caped Crusader.
Yes, after almost 1 year later, we are finally doing. We are finally doing a proper review on this series. And before we start getting into spoilers, any non-spoiler or general thoughts you had about the show, Teladia, just to start us off?
Great animation to first kick things off. And also, I gotta say, very interesting design that they went for animation style and direction that they went in. Very different, very interesting.
A new direction, if you will. Sorry, I had
I
to.
I, I
I
knew
had
you.
to.
I
I
knew
had
you.
to. I had to. I had to.
I knew you were gonna do that.
But yeah, that's pretty much. This definitely felt like a Cape. I'm not gonna say Gotham, but at the very least a Gotham Central type show where it was mostly focused on the GCPD. But at least Batman wasn't completely upstaged by the GCPD. He mostly played a supporting role, kind of in the background. You
So
really,
you,
yeah, my except with the exception of one or two episodes where Batman genuinely got the center stage, like
so you,
the. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you felt like this was a successor to the Gotham TV show, but in animation form.
Yeah, I definitely felt it was a similar vibe to Gotham. Different aesthetics, of course, but
Yeah,
it had a similar vibe.
definitely did. So you watched every episode.
I did, I did. I even rewatched it.
You even rewatched it. That's good to hear, guys. If you haven't watched it, it's on HBO Max. We're gonna put that out there for you guys to uh put that out there for you guys. If you guys haven't watched it yet, watch it on HBO Max. It's highly recommended. Also, just want to mention this. The reason why we haven't got our webcams on is because I'm sweating like a hot pig right now because we got a heat wave in the UK, and Jay Heat's probably heating up as well. He's on flames, as he so called says. Am I right, Jay Heat?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Okay.
now. Yeah, yeah,
Flame on!
yeah, you're on a flame on. He's on a heat wave, guys. We're both on heat waves. That's what we haven't got.
uh,
But
but
anyway,
yeah,
back
all
to
in good fun.
Batman. Back to Batman, as we say. Um, so Jay, kicking it off. What did you think of the first episode?
The first episode definitely helped set the stage. Now, I guess now we're going to spoiler territory. Surprisingly, despite having like I don't know if it's Penguin's mom or just a female penguin, she doesn't play a role in the larger story of the season. She's kind of similar to Batman Brave and the Bold, where you had the cold opening to where Batman teams up with other heroes against a bunch of cabal of other villains, but they don't play a role in the larger episode. It's kind of like that. You get what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? You get what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think for me, it was I was just like, okay, like, so this is how they're gonna approach it, Batman.
It definitely prioritized being a detective
Yeah,
rather than just being
punching.
fantastical.
Yeah, it was more detective noir style than fantastic, like you said, and it was very interesting to see. Um, it was very interesting to see um how uh Bruce Bruce tackles his persona with Batman in the first episode,
Oh yes,
right?
definitely. Right.
Because obviously you have that um
The
dual
duality.
duality, yeah, and it was also got to remember in this universe, Alfred Pennyworth is not so called so faithful to him yet.
No, he's not.
So after that first episode, what did you give it? Like, what would you give the first episode rating?
I would give the first episode a 7 out of 10. It does what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't stand out compared to the larger season.
Yeah, that's why I would have given it too. I also think as well when it comes down to the animation style, I really like the animation style, the way it was going, the direction it was going in. Um, and I also really like the fact that s- um, how it was indifferent to My Adventure with Superman because that was previous. It was like what 2 months between Batman Caped Crusader and My Adventure with Superman, and how much it's like a night and day thing if you compared to both, right?
What was that?
Sorry,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard an echo. And what's up, Tevia? How's it going?
what's up, Tevia?
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully, we can get to 350 before the end of the year. But thank you. Thank you. But please continue, Talati. You were saying?
As I was saying, when it comes down to um, like comparing it to Cape Crusader and like if you look at the first two episodes, sorry, first episodes between sorry Cape Crusader and the first episode of um and the first episode of My Adventure with Superman, it's a night and day thing.
Oh, great contrast. Oh, I'm doing good currently at my sister's wedding. Oh, Mazel Tov. Congratulations, Tevia. Congratulations.
Congratulations, bro.
But appreciate you for coming. Appreciate you for leaving a comment while you're there. We definitely appreciate it. But yeah, it's like night and day. My Adventures of Superman. I'm not gonna say it's bad. I will never say My Adventures of Superman is bad. It has a different focal point compared to other Superman adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
Takes S Task for example.
Yeah.
It's largely about Superman. Yes, Lois and Clark get together by the end, but that build up, that relationship doesn't come into play until like the second season at the absolute earliest. Whereas where My Adventures of Superman, it's largely a Lois Lane show, but structured like an ensemble mixed with a well, pseudo anime aesthetic because you get what I'm trying to say, Sadia. But
Yes. But when it comes down to Batman Cape Crusader, though, bringing it back to that, I think
please, please.
what I find so interesting is like as the episodes that go by, it makes it even more interesting. The some of the characters I felt iffy about. I'm not gonna lie to you there.
Right.
So I'm not gonna lie to you about like how I felt about Harley Quinn as an example compared
Oh,
to
oh, all right. I know we were saving this for episode 6. We're not going to go into too much spoilers because we're not going to spoil the episode. But episode 6 should have been a Hugo Strange episode from the structure, from the
yeah.
psychology aesthetic. That screamed Hugo Strange.
It does scream he, uh
A Hugo Strange episode, but they gave it to a. I'm not going to say Harley Quinn stand-in, but more okay. I'm not going to spoil the episode. I'm just going to go by what the news article said leading up to the show's premiere. A
yeah,
version of Harley that was never corrupted by the Joker. If you go back to Mad Love, Harley was establishing psychologist who only wanted the interview with Joker to bolster her career. She gets the interview, Joker manipulates her, and then she ends up completely falling for him. That's the madness and the tragedy of that story. With the way Harley was designed, the way the Harley was integrated, well, established in BTAS, mind you, because she's a show original character, she is revolved around the Joker to some degree, at least within the context of her origin. You can't maneuver around that unless you make a completely different character altogether and just give her the Harley Quinn name. There's just no maneuvering around that. Would you agree, Taladia?
Agreed.
But that's all I'm going to say without getting into spoilers for that later episode.
I will also say this as well is the fact that I did not like the idea Bruce and Harley Quinzel know each other really well on a professional level.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
I, I did not like the idea at all because she, I don't know, it just fell off. Like, who does that? As the
Mm,
first, like, I don't understand. It was like, what's her name? Uh, I forgot her name now. Leslie,
Montoya?
no,
Let's.
Leslie Tompkins. I
Okay.
would I would understand if it's Leslie Tompkins saying Leslie Tompkins helping Bruce to overcome things.
Right.
So I'm just saying when it comes down to uh what's the word I'm looking for? Um when it just compare the two like B task to this, I'm just like
Completely different vibe.
yeah,
Completely different vibe.
yeah. But honestly the first two episodes I enjoyed the first episode, right?
Yeah.
The second, but it was building up. It took time for them to build up on uh the relationship between Batman and Gordon. Too
Yeah.
long,
Too
too
long. I
long.
mean, I would argue now. Again, it's been a while since I've seen B Test. I definitely need to do a rewatch of B Test. But I think Batman and Gordon weren't established partners or working well together until the tail end of season one, right before Robin is brought in, where the show is briefly rebranded The Adventures of Batman and Robin for season two. At least syndication, it was rebranded as that. But for the most of season one, they reluctant. You hardly ever see Batman working with Joker except a handful of episodes. I mean, Batman working with Gordon, excuse me, in a handful of episodes. You just didn't see it that much in season one.
No,
You just didn't. Now, season two, going into new Batman adventures with an established Bat family, yeah, Gordon was in just about every other episode, but definitely not in season one. Not in season one. But I get it. It's a completely different structure now. And a lot of the projects are getting slanted budgets compared to what came before. You don't have a lot of time to actually engage and cement a build up. But that doesn't mean you can't do good with what you have. You don't you have to let a plot point marinate a bit. It's just like being in the kitchen. You have to let the seasoning and the sauce, you have to let it marinate. You can't just rush it out of relative convenience, or you think you could, or based on a false pretense or understanding of the recipe. You either follow it to the letter or you add spice or flavor to it very carefully. And more importantly, you know what you're doing or what you're adding in is gonna pay off compared to what you're taking away.
so I also going to mention this as well. What's also interesting is they added Matt Reeves into the fold for this show
As a
heavily
consult
as a
as a
consultation, heavily
yes,
consultation, right? And
right.
I think that was a really good move for a Batman cartoon television show.
Yes.
For
Good
for them,
synergy. Good
good
synergy.
good synergy. The timing was right. The Batman had already been released. Matt Reeves had nothing prepped up yet. Um,
For the Batman 2 script, it didn't even get approved until recently, according to official sources.
it didn't get approved till yesterday,
Oh, I
for that
thought it was
matter.
a couple days ago.
No, yesterday.
Man, man, I've had a crazy week. But yeah, that makes you think, was Batman Caped Crusader, before they ultimately licensed it off to Amazon, was it originally going to tie to to Matt Reeves' Batman crime saga? Or was it always going to be standalone?
I thought this show was going to be a standalone anyway. So
It makes you think. It makes you think, especially if you had Matt Reeves as a writing consultant. But then again, it could have just been simply for synergy purposes.
it is for synergy purposes because Matt Reeves needed to have some sort of Batman under his belt besides the live action to have animation. but also to add more fuel to this, is you had James Gunn involved. You had uh, the one and only Bruce Timm involved on this too.
Yeah, we have to address the elephant in the room. Let's give Bruce Tim, whether it be through his showrunners, the higher ups, or even the producers, let's give Bruce Tim a round of applause for showing restraint.
Yeah. By the way, Naji says congratulations on 300 subs, and Tevia says he's curious about. Did we answer this question, by the way?
I don't think we ever answered this question, but I definitely know. Now, commercially speaking, it does have a bigger budget compared to what BTAS got commercially, but with BTAS they were able to utilize a lot more compared to this show, even with the slightly lesser budget on paper.
Yes. So
So I will say that.
I wanted to ask you something.
Right.
How did you feel about Harvey Dent?
Oh, we're just all over the place now. Okay. Um
Because
the characterization was good. The two timing, the redemption arc, how far he was willing to go for his personal ambitions and working with the mob, all that is good. It's everything after the origin, everything after the acid, where it all falls apart. Harvey Dent, after the injury, does not have a quarrel of conscience. The two-faced personality manifests and largely takes over. First of all, second, the aesthetic and the design and his proper two-faced design is relatively cheap. Like it looks more like molded clay than burn scars. Now, if you were doing this for censorship purposes and syndication, fair enough. But don't make it look so plastic looking. I might as well have been looking at Clayface mid shapeshift.
agreed.
At least with Clayface, it makes sense he would distort his appearance would be distorted like that.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I agree with you with the whole. I agree with you the how they distorted them. The one thing I didn't like though is why bring the Batman Brave and the Bold voice actor to play with Harvey Dent? Like why?
Uh he was never a good Harvey. Now, granted, the actor is good with what he's given. Well, good in general, but he cannot pull off a good Harvey Dent. And not to mention that version of Harvey Dent in Batman Brave and the Bold is based off the Silver Age, where he was campy and just the nostalgia of and everything with the Comics Code Authorities in the 50s and 60s. Well, really, the Comics Code Authority didn't get appealed until 2011, but that's a separate conversation.
Hmm.
But um, but to make it a long story short, this would going into this show would be Harvey Dent would have had a slightly darker vibe compared to Brave and the Bold. I'm not saying the actor couldn't have pulled it off; it just would have been a challenge.
Yeah. Um, I also was going to mention is that each individual character brought different things. I did like Barbara Gordon in this show.
Okay, I did
I
allude to that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I felt her character building up from a lawyer into kind of like a police type of person was like really cool. But at the same time, it was like some things I didn't agree on, some things I did. But I felt she was cool on so many different things, though.
Definitely, and like I said, with Bruce Timm showing restraint, one of the biggest critiques of his career, not so much his sketches or the way he draws certain characters, but the Batset scandal in of itself. The only true exception to that pairing is in the Lego movie, the Lego Batman movie, where Bruce and Barbara have no professional interaction whatsoever outside of Barbara. I think in the Lego movie she was the mayor, but I could be wrong on that. Either the mayor or the police commissioner, I can't remember. But there was no Bat family dynamic with Barbara.
Um, yeah, I agree with you. I wonder though, right? How many episodes was there again? I totally forgot how many episodes it was.
For Caped Crusader, I want to say it was 8.
8 episodes. Hold on, let me double check because I did live streams of this. I should know this stuff. I should know this stuff because it was like a year ago. It was 10 episodes. Sorry, 10 episodes.
Oh, that's right. The Harvey Dent, that was a two-parter. Right, right.
Yeah. So, but each episode had different villains. Like you had a moving
Penguin,
target.
Penguin,
Yeah,
and not the Shadow, but kind of like Golden Age Clayface, but rather than a mutant sludge monster, he was just a kind of a monster man. So you had
yeah.
Penguin and Clayface for episode one. Episode
Y-
two, you had who is the
Uh,
villain? Episode
that
two.
he looked like Jonah Hex.
No, no, that's right. That's right. Clayface carried over into episode two. Penguin was
Yeah.
episode one. Well, Penguin
Ep-
and her crew were episode one. Clayface
episode
was yeah. Clayface was
episode
episode two.
episode 3 was Catwoman.
The Gentleman's Ghost was episode four, the supernatural episode.
No, it was Firefly.
Oh, Firefly. I'm sorry, Firefly. Then the Gentleman's Ghost. Gentleman's
Nope,
Ghost.
that no, it was Harley Quinn.
No, Harley Quinn was episode six.
No, the Gentleman Ghost was the next episode.
Okay, then I had the order mixed up. Okay, Harley Quinn was episode five. Gentleman's Ghost was episode six. Harvey got two, technically three episodes to himself. One episode involving, I don't know her exact name, but I'm just going to call her Ace because she had a similar vibe and origin to DCAU's Ace. So that's what I addressed her as. So Ace with the Carnival was episode 8, and then 9 and 10 was a two-parter with Harvey Dent.
Yes.
Unless we're counting Onomatopoeia, but he was a supporting villain with Barbara Gordon being targeted. But yeah. But I guess we can count Onomatopoeia at least as a secondary villain for episode 8.
But each episode that was going by, it was getting better and better and better in terms of the direction they were going in.
I agree.
Did you like the Batmobile?
I like the Batmobile.
You did.
Yes, I did.
So did
There's
I.
been better designs, hands down. But for at least for this setting and this aesthetic, this design works.
For a 1940s setting, yeah, it definitely worked, and it can, what's the word? It can work in that aesthetic. Now I wonder, in the future, will they expand on the universe?
Maybe, possibly.
Are they gonna do, I don't know, are they gonna do Superman, let's say, in the 1940s?
It's possible.
That's something we should think about.
We do. We do.
That's something we need to think about long and hard.
That we do. That we do, man. Because I mean, could it work? It would be no different than the classic '40s films. I mean, it would have to have a very similar style to that. You wouldn't have any of the the modern feats Superman would have later on.
Yeah. But I feel this show is building on something really great, I feel. Like 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 do you think, like, how long the episodes were, do you feel like, oh, they could have gone, that can they do one thing, could they do something else, like what do you like tell me, like, what's the negatives out of it besides the obvious?
Ooh. I mean, it could work, especially with the dread leading into World War II and the chaos of that time. A golden age Superman show could work. You would just be limited in what type of feat Superman had, unless you put in modern elements into it. which even then could break the setting because Superman would be overpowered. I'm just saying there's a lot of optics you would have to look into for a 40s Superman show. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I really think as well, um, for the longevity that this series had, I felt that I think it should have been like a 45-minute episode per episode, right?
Yeah, these definitely should have been given more time. I agree on that.
It should not have been like a 30-minute episode, at least a 40 to 45-minute episode per episode. It uh, what's the word I'm looking for? It actually makes sense if they do 40 to 45 minutes. Flesh out the characters, right?
Right.
And for them to, I don't know, for them to kind of give the fans more action and more detective work.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, so um but like I said, um I just hope like season 2, coming into season 2, they'll stretch out a little bit more and start bringing in Robins. That's what we need, is the Robins.
I feel like they're going to save that for James Gunn's DCU. At least because the Robins, you may can get away with one in a grounded setting
Yeah,
if you really committed to it. But chances are they're going to settle for a stand-in. Chances are, similar to what the Nolan films did, where they effectively create an amalgam of the Robins in one character, who is just a who is just a new cop on the force. And I think Bruce ends up. I don't think he directly bequeaths him the cowl at the end. I just know in the Dark Knight Rises, Bruce fakes his death. Well, allegedly fakes his death if you're counting a certain scene.
um you know what I was going to say to you,
Sure.
um I also was going to say that, from what you're saying as well, it makes total sense. And I also was going to bring this up. How many episodes would you like to see for season 2?
10 would probably be pushing it, especially since, again, Caped Crusader definitely feels like a one and done experience. But I feel like you can get away with 6 to 8. You can get away with 6 to 8 episodes, but
Yeah,
give them more time.
agreed.
Don't play it safe with 26 to 30 minute increments. You're not on syndication anymore. If this is just going straight to streaming, you can get away with 45 minutes apiece.
I also think if we were gonna push things, also if we're gonna push out the thing, start introducing uh Dick Grayson. I think that's the starting point for them.
At
Season
least,
two,
yep.
season two. Sorry, I kind of it's hot. So, season 2 is all about Robin. That's the
Yeah.
whole premises, right, for season 2.
Okay.
So, so you're building up to um, you're building up to the the reveal of Robin, so to say,
Right.
right? So that is the that is the way um so that's what I would do. Like, you build up from introduction of Dick Grayson, right? The
Right.
tragedy, and then the
Right.
ending is him just putting on the suit and doing, like, the famous Batman and introduction of Robin, where he comes through the spring tramp, what's it called, trampoline, whatever it's called.
Uh, not Springtrap, but I know what you're talking about. I just can't
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
the name.
It's on the cover of a Batman comic where he comes through it.
Hmm. Not I forget, like not a drum.
Trampoline, like a trampoline type of thing.
Okay, okay. Sorry, my brain's just not working
Yeah,
today.
same man. It's one of those things. But guys, it's one of those things where we both like are heating up and everything, but we wanted to do this show anyway. So giving you at least 30 to 40 minutes of content about the Cape Crusader and give you our
At
thoughts on
least.
it, at least. But we will be doing a stream on Monday night, um, where we'll be discussing, so not tomorrow, but the day after, where we'll be discussing, what's the word? We will be discussing Sparking Zero. But anyway, back to Batman Cape Crusader. Like I said, I feel like during beginning, middle, and end, it should all be about Robin, and I think that's going to be the main the main focal point for season two. You've done
I
the
agree.
introduction. You've done the introduction of Batman. First 10 episodes were great, like in terms of the introduction, the characters. I didn't. I also got to say, for season one, how do you feel about Harvey Bullock as like the baddie type of cop?
Well, Bullock was always dirty in most depictions. It's only because of Gordon in the camaraderie of Gotham improving. Bu- Gordon effectively helped Bullock inspire to be a better person. Yes, you can argue Batman played a role too, but it was mostly Gordon. So I feel like Bullock was largely the same in terms of being a dirty cop, but the his partner was doing partner was definitely the more heinous of the two. I don't know if that was a stylistic choice, but if you actually go back, it's not just in Beat, but especially if you go back to BTAS, Bullock was both BTAS and Gotham to an extent. Bullock was as dirty as they come. He was the stereotypical cynic trying to just get by and survive a broken city and a broken system. So
no,
I
I
feel like,
get.
yeah, so I feel
No,
like I'm not saying the characterization was perfect or even a one to one, but it was the spirit of Gordon. I mean, it was the spirit of Bullock, if that makes sense.
but it's
Especially his banter with Montoya, because it wasn't as egregious in BTAS, but at least in BTAS, Bullock and Montoya kind of had a brother sister type banter. Like you could tell, even if it wasn't directly confirmed in the DCAU, you could feel that Bullock and Montoya had more of a sibling banter going on.
mhm.
So I feel like that was more of the same. What do you think about Bullock?
I didn't like him at all. He was one of those individuals. I was just like, I'm like, I don't like this interpretation of Bullock. I'm like, this guy is
Whiny,
arrogant,
conniving.
whiny, conniving, scheming. He's like, what's the word? He's like the Riddler, or worse than that. He's like, who's worse than the Riddler?
Exactly. Now, yeah, I mean, like I say, in terms of being a dirty cop, they got that aspect right. Like I said, they didn't exactly nail a one to one of his character, but him being a dirty cop and a schemer in an early year Batman Gotham before Gordon and to a lesser extent Batman inspired Bullock to be a slightly better person. Again, it's rough. That's ultimately what happens. But if we're looking at it objectively, it's around the time the mobsters start phasing out in favor of supervillains.
Hmm.
But you get what I'm trying to say.
I know
He
exactly what you're saying. So
he was always a dirty cop to a degree.
yeah, he was a dirty cop to a degree, and it makes total sense to the point where how things are playing out, But I still don't like his. his portrayal. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I get what you mean.
it's like, oh, I'm gonna plant something and put the blame on Batman, or put thingy into good cops into trouble, or put a blame on somebody else. And I'm just like, that's not how I remember Harvey Bullock from my era of animation. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I get it, especially if you're gonna, especially if you're nostalgic about it. I understand the frustration, believe me. But again, Bullock was a lot of things, but conniving, scheming, trifling. He just wasn't like that. He ultimately wasn't like that.
no,
Bullock
he
is a
was,
lot of Bullock is a lot of things, but a schemer he is not.
and he was rubbish at scheming too in the and DCAU.
Yeah, I mean, he tried to scheme, but he was completely bad at it to the point that he'd get busted almost immediately. He was not good at being. That's just not the type of person Bullock is. He either gives himself away, he's kind of a loudmouth. I just feel like you replaced Bullock with another character acting that way, or another dirty cop acting a certain way, and nothing in the story of the season would change.
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, um, I really think, when it comes down to looking at Batman, characters, it's weird. It's you know,
Right?
it's I just wish there was more to add to these characters. The depth of the characters.
I agree.
But what I was gonna say to you, bro, is I also think I wish there was the bat cycle we got and the back plane. We never got those.
Mm.
Lucius Fox was in it. I thought Lucius was brilliant.
Luke, it's pretty hard to get Lucius Fox wrong. Like he's a pretty straightforward character. It's almost impossible to get him wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, you would have to try to make a poor characterization of Lucius Fox.
but it's like I said. Bringing in Lucius is a big deal for the show, and I just wish there was more vehicles added to the show, not just the Batmobile,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
Like plane, Seaboat. There's there's a lot that they could have added, but they never did. But how things but how things go, we'll never know.
It's a shame, really.
Yeah, it's a real shame. But all in all, though, like overall season, if you had to put in the Richter scale between 1 and 10, where would you put it?
I give the overall season an 8, largely because the season episode 5, the Harley Quinn episode, definitely should have gone to Hugo Strange. With the way it's definitely felt more like a Hugo Strange, but I can understand why they wanted to at least make a version of Harley for popularity.
Hmm.
Instead, because again, you can't. I don't know if Joker would work in this setting specifically, but at the very least, I would have introduced Harley and then set up her obsession with Joker in season 2. At least that would have been a better way to go about it, or at the very least, get audiences invested in a potential season 2.
Yeah,
But as a one and done, it gets the job done.
agreed.
But
Agreed.
yeah,
I would have to give this show, uh, somewhere in between. Um, what's the word? Somewhere in between 9 and a 10. I would say 9.5. Do you hear?
Definitely. Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm sorry. Going through some technical difficulties at the moment, but yeah, I would. Yeah, like I said, it's definitely a good show. You could easily push for a 9, but again, I'm only dropping it to an 8 because of both Harley Quinn should have been swapped out for Hugo Strange, or at the very least, Harley should have been saved for a second season, and Two Face in the two-parter. Not only his weak design, but the fact that he ends up unalived in the end. Like that's just a waste of potential.
Agreed.
So those are just those are just the two things I can't forgive the show, regardless of whether it was restructured from the licensing to Amazon or not. So those are the two aspects of the show I just can't forgive, regardless of the setting.
Do you think the show will be on Amazon again, or do you think you'll get a?
If it gets now again, Batman's always going to sell. He's the golden goose of DC/Warner Brothers Discovery. The only reason Caped Crusader got licensed out in the first place is because Warner Brothers Discovery, well, technically this was Warner Media if we're counting pre-production, were in a real corporate bind, not only with the corporate regime with Hamada, but also waiting for the Discovery acquisition to go through. They were in a bind and need to cut costs to meet Discovery's demands to secure a deal. Yeah, because why else would you license out and throw away a Batman project?
Yeah, like
If it weren't for those specific factors, Caped Crusader would have been kept or at least produced in house. So yeah, back to answering your question. If Caped Crusader does get picked up for a second season, they're probably going to try to barter with Amazon to get distribution rights to the show back, so they can implement it implement it for HBO Max. The only way you'd be able to do that though is if you give Amazon a cut, or the very least compensate Amazon by having Warner Brother Discovery take a majority of the production costs.
mm-hmm.
Which right now, with $9 trillion in debt, they're just not in a position to do.
Agreed.
But yeah, that's the business side of it. But if you want just my general feel, if my overall opinion, regardless of that, the safest option would be to keep the show on Amazon. That would be the smartest move, because again, a Batman project is going to sell no matter what.
Yeah.
That would be the smartest move. But trying to barter and license the show back, you're either never going to get Amazon to bend to that deal, or they would ultimately come out the right end of it by Warner WBD paying for the production cost out of pocket. It's business wise, it's a fool's errand. If you're going to keep Caped Crusader, let Amazon produce it.
So I was gonna bring this up. Like, there's also the question about HBO Max, because they're bringing that back, renaming it. That's the big factor now. Are they
HBO
gonna?
Max was just the better name. I mean, if you call it Max, people don't even know what you're talking about.
But considering DC are putting things on HBO Max, that does beg the question: are they going to put it on HBO Max again?
Again, streaming/distribution rights are a little complex. So it just depends whether or not the executives, whether or not they can, whether they and HBO and Amazon can come to a deal. That's what it ultimately boils down to.
Yeah. So sorry. Excuse me. As I was gonna say, it's all up there. I just hope for season 2 we get an announcement soon. I've been long waiting for season 2 of Batman Caped Crusader, and of an announcement for that, alongside Mad Adventure with Superman season 3 of a trailer for that. I've been waiting such a long time for these two shows, because these are the two shows I'm mostly invested in. I'm putting my money into watching and reacting to,
Right.
and I feel that that's what Warner Brothers should do. So anyone that's interested in that, put the effort into it. Give them the big budget don't just like fob it off to another streaming services like Amazon or Peacock or something like that, where people struggle. You get me?
I I get you. I get you. I mean, if you want to keep it, own it. Like for real. I completely agree.
Yeah, I just thought, you know, as a as a consumer, I think it should be on HBO. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because again, it was a business decision that ultimately got the show licensed off to Amazon in the first place. The larger question is whether it's worth trying to barter or get the show or distribute the show back for HBO Max. You just have to ask yourself whether or not it's worth it.
Hmm.
That's the wider question in all of this.
So, but is there anything else you want to add to this, or should we wrap up, or do you want to talk about something else? Or
Um, we can do a just a brief Q&A or just whatever you guys want to talk about. Anything you guys want to add to the conversation. Anything you guys want to talk about. It could be Superman, it could be movies, gaming, whatever you guys want to talk about. We'll do that for a few minutes just to get a little bit more engagement, and then we'll call it. Then we'll wrap up. But while we're waiting on that, Taladia, what you got coming up on the channel? Where can people find you?
uh, so as for me, what I got coming up on my channel, Wednesday I'll be doing a members panel stream. We'll be talking about 007 First Light, WB Games sale possibility to Sony. We'll be talking about discussing about what else was there, because I'm putting the thing. Hold on one second. Give me a uno momento. We're going to be talking about 007 First Light, uh, Batman Part 2 script being done, and our hype for it. And also, we'll be talking about the DC Studios hype for San Diego Comic Con, because that's right around the corner. And as well, Superman expectations for this in the box office. So we'll be doing that on the members panel stream. So it's going to be amazing to discuss all of these things and to have guests such as Pika Shades. It's going to be on the channel alongside Jared from Comics League. So we will be having both of those guests on, and it'll be an amazing time. And then I'll also will be doing some, if there's any Marvel content I can get a hold of, whether it's Marvel Rivals, if there's new characters dropping, I'll be sure to do reactions for that. And expect the Superman hype stream to come as well, because we will be doing a Superman hype weekend stream that will celebrate the movies released.
Definitely, definitely. As for me, you can find me at jheatblaze or jheat75. Also, I wanted to hold on. Give me just one moment. Where I usually do gaming, comics, anime, manga, and like I said, we're also prepping to do a spark. Planning to do a
Sparking Zero.
Sparking Zero 9 months later. Sparking Zero 9 months later. Give me just a moment. Where especially with the new DLC, what we're expecting, how lackluster. You know what? I'm gonna let action speak louder than words because I'm starting to get into a rut at this point. Can y'all see the screen?
Let me just see 1 second. Yes, I see it. Let's go. 9 months later, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
Working thumbnail. You'll see the final version will be posted both on my upcoming and my community tab later this evening.
Awesome, awesome.
All right, and let's see if anyone else is adding to the conversation. No. Again, thank you so much for everyone still on, even if y'all haven't directly said anything in the chat. Taladi, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, all I can say is check out Cape Crusader. Um, Um, check out Cape Crusader, give it a shot, give it a world, and if you haven't checked out the series, it's on Amazon. I forgot to say, yeah, it's on Amazon, not HBO Max, but I'm sure they'll put it on HBO Max uh,
Eventually.
eventually. Yeah, and also I would recommend you guys subscribing to Jay Heat or following him on social media, which if it's on Twitch or on Twitter or X, please follow him and check out his content, man. He's just reached over 300 subs, and he's got to do the Gotham Knights review, and he's got to do the reaction to the finale episode. Well, I'm there, so stay tuned for that.
Like, comment, subscribe, everybody. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Flame off.